Welcome everyone to an update on my AC 2-litre saloon restoration for July 2025. In a previous video I showed myself test fitting front brake shoes with bonded linings. These are hydrostatic brakes, so I was curious to see if bonded linings worked satisfactorily. There was less resistance when going backwards. Previously the lightest touch of the pedal stopped the car when pushing it around the driveway, maybe grabbing a little. Now it is more progressive. Whether that's good or bad I won't know for sure until the proper road test. These shoes were bought second hand, so one never knows. Next I needed to complete the restoration of the steering wheel. This involved using my replica chrome plating kit again. The helpful agent at Gutierrez Plating advised me that my steering wheel block with the blue enamel on should survive the plating tanks. He was right. The plating is still not coming out perfectly. If you look closely there are tiny dots giving a similar look to paints with dust settling on it. However, it's good enough for my AC, as I have no interest in winning shows. There are 4 brass blocks with writing on just one of them. Next, the steel ring. Then the screws and nuts. I used a stainless steel basket to dip the screws and nuts into the tanks. That meant calculating the surface area to include the wires of the basket so that I could adjust the plating current accordingly. That is, the current density depends on the surface area of metal, including the basket and the screws and nuts. Now to bolt the steering wheel back on, having given the stainless steel spokes a quick clean. blue block goes at the top right. I measured between the front wheel rims and the leaf springs to be sure the steering was exactly straight. Fine adjustments to the wheel position would involve sliding the complete wheel off the spline column. Now to a very different challenge. Another video I made earlier in 2025 was the restoration of an indicator switch assembly and stator tube. That was for a customer. Unfortunately, I never did persuade the right hand self-cancel to work. I had a similar issue with my own unit back in the 1980s, but the problem cleared up more or less. Here the right hand self-cancel was a bit reluctant to work. I would not recommend dismantling these things unless you are good with very fiddly mechanisms. There are a few springs in here ready to make everything fly apart. There are 3 tiny ball BA screws holding the stator tube to the switch unit, and 3 larger screws to holding the horn push casing together, although one of the screws is missing from mine. Firstly, I wanted to clean every part with switch cleaner. Then check that the springs on the indicator lever are okay. These are essential for the self-cancelling. Make sure the horn contacts are clean. A bit of silicone grease on the tiny roller that goes on the lower end of the lever. Now test the self-cancel with the internal cam. So far so good. Putting the horn contacts back on, the screws connect to the horn lead at the other side and to the earth tab. The previous unit I worked on a few months ago had a shim ring for the earth connection. Some more grease, this time inside the internal cam. Some dielectric grease for the horn button contact. A quick clean up of the Bakelite. Some wire wool can help. There's a spring plus a plastic locating button to trap under the horn bush. tab on the stator located into the cam. Okay, a slight problem. I noticed that the insulation had worn through one of the wires at the join between the tubes. This contradicts something I said on the previous video, although the circumstances are slightly different. Here I've retained the original wiring, as it's a long-winded task to rewire these things. The new wires I fitted to the other unit did not have the cotton braid outer insulation, meaning they were not such a tight fit. Also, the old cotton braid here will tend to catch on the irregularities inside this section of tube. So for now I decided to wrap tape around the affected section of cable. If it gives trouble in the future, I'll just have to rewire. A quick test of the switches. All good. Now for some fun and games getting the cable down the steering column tube. A problem. One of the bullet connectors jammed inside and broke off when I pulled back out. Not to worry, as the connector was not stuck inside. Then I remembered how I did this back in the 1980s. I slid the cable back out of the stator tube until only 2 or 3 inches of cable poked out at the end. The tube can then guide the wires in. Unfortunately, this is a long-winded process, starting by detaching the switch unit again. Then temporarily fit the olive and nut to hold the stator tube so I can pull the lead through. It was a hot afternoon, so I worked in the garage. Then remove the nut and olive so I can slide the stator tube out far enough to get a small screwdriver in. To be safe, I fitted a 4BA screw from my stock of screws before putting in the original screws. And keeping a large tub to catch any errant screws. Here you can see the thin disc that will be gripped by the 3 grub screws on the steering wheel boss. back on with the olive and nut, but not fully tightened yet. I still need to make sure that the switch unit is the right way up. It wiggles a bit as the static tube is very long. To make the shabby cable look nice, I'm using this PVC sleeving that has the texture of cotton braid. I get it from Paul Beck Vintage. I check with the meter again to be sure there are no internal shorts. Next, solder on new bullet connectors. It's evening now and my driveway is in the shade. Connecting up the horn and indicator switches. For some reason these were given wire colours that don't match either the schematic diagrams or the standard colour system for old British cars. The mid-green wire does correctly match the green supply lead for the indicator switch. The dark green is for the left-hand indicator but should really be green with red. The light green is for the right-hand indicator, but should really be green with white. Finally, the black wire is for the horn, but should really be purple with black. A bit of dielectric grease on each one. Now for the moment of truth. I have a battery on the floor for doing tests while there is still no dashboard. I'll connect the green wire which supplies fused accessories normally via the ignition switch. The left-hand trafficator is stuck. Let's try the horn. I'll connect the battery to the purple lead, which is for fused accessories permanently live. Let's try a bit of switch cleaner on the trafficator's plungers. I clean both. Looks okay, and the switch unit stays more or less stationary. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.